Hey, welcome back, my friend. My name is Danny Dumas, and this is the Earn Your Title podcast. Last week, I celebrated my 2-year anniversary, and during my interview with Lindsay, which if you haven't heard it, please go back. I think it was pretty good. I mentioned a framework, something that I had been thinking about for a very long time. Over the past 2 years, I've kind of wanted to figure out, what do I talk about? Like, what are the core principles to help you become a better husband, father, and leader? And I mentioned it briefly, so I'm going to break down what that is, explain a little more why I think it's important, and give you a plan on how to implement this in your life so that you can be that, that dad you want to be, the husband you want to be, that leader you want to be. And there are 5 things that I think you should be working on all the time. And now I want to clarify, it's not all 5 all the time. I think, and I know that in my life when I've focused on at least one of these, I've been moving the ball forward. I've been progressing. I've been doing better and more, and so we'll go into them really quickly, the whole list, and I'll break down each individual one. And at the end, I need your help because I want to make this slightly better, and I haven't come up with the right answer, and I want to use you. I don't want to use AI. So the first one is the fitness. What you do, how you move your body, where you move it, how often you move it. Fitness is important. You should be working on this. It's something that you can do for the rest of your life. Food. What are we putting in our body? How often are we putting it in our body? And how little should we be putting in our body? So food is the next one. The third one is finance. How much money we're making, what we're doing with the money, how we're tracking it, how we're planning for the future. Finance. Friendship. How are we growing our network? How are we interacting with our kids? And I'm taking family and friendship. Probably I could use both of those, family and friendship. In my life, how am I interacting with the people that are important to me, and am I doing something actively to progress forward, to improve some of those relationships? And the fifth one, and this is where I need your help, because I couldn't come up with a word that started with an F. And I really wanted to have the 5 Fs of the Earn Your Title podcast framework and come up with something special, but I don't have the word, but it's your mindset and the things you know and are learning. So this is actively going out and getting new information and progressing in your knowledge, in your mindset, the way you think about the world, the way you see the world. I need your help. We need a word that starts with an F. So if you have something, find me on Instagram, Danny Dumas, EYT, Earn Your Title, and give me your suggestions on what that would be. And then not part of the framework, but the sixth thing, if you will, is, and I don't know if this is necessary, but I always like to be working towards something bigger, a big project, a big goal, whether it's a race or whether it's paying off a certain amount of debt, or it's doing something in my diet consistently for this long. I like to have something out in the future. So let's rewind, and I'm going to tell you what I'm currently doing with the 4 Fs and the whatever we're going to call the fifth one. Please help, and show how you might interact with that, and then how I've done that in the past and how I feel like it's helped me move forward. So the first one, fitness. I'm in my job. It's an active job, so I do think it's very important that I stay at a certain level of fitness. And right now, what I'm currently doing is I'm doing a version of 75 Hard light, kind of, where I have committed to doing something fitness-wise every day for the next 75 days. One of my big goals right now is I'm running a half marathon. So I've been going outside and running. And if you're not familiar with 75 Hard, it is a 45-minute workout inside and a 45-minute workout outside. So what I've been doing for my 45-minute workout outside is walking, running, and we'll be rucking. And then when I come inside, instead of focusing on strength right now, I've realized that as I've got older, one of the things that I really need to get better on is my flexibility and my mobility. I've been using an app called Pliability, and it's long, slow stretching. You're holding pose for 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, and that's been very successful. And this is what's interesting about, this framework is that's what I'm focusing on. One of the things I'm focusing on right now. And because I'm focusing on that, and I'm also, it's summertime, my kids are out of school, but they'll be going back shortly. I've been focusing on family and friends and doing things and building relationships. But what's about to happen is my kids are going to go back to school. and that's going to change it up. So my focus won't be as much because they're just going to be gone. I won't have the ability to interact with them. So what I'm trying to do now is when my kids go back to school, I'm going back to work. So I'm shifting one of the focuses of family to finance. I'm going to go try to make some money. I have some financial goals. This year has been really good for me. I was able to make a couple moves and pay off some big debt. So thankful for that. I have a little bit more to go. And so I'm going to really go after it, if you will. I'm going to, spend probably the end of August, all of September, all of October, trying to make some money, trying to make some big money so that I could pay off pay off this last debt. And that's what I mean. Like the overachiever, the high performance, like I'm going to do all of it. I'm going to do fitness, finance, food, fellowship, I'm going to read 20 books, but that's just not the case. It's not the case. In years past, when I came to July, I actually had to decide for many years, I'm not going to work out in July because I would feel bad because I'm busy, going to parties, going to the lake, having fun, going on vacations, and my workouts would just go away. I'm like, man, I am failing. No, I'm not. I'm working on friends and family. That's the focus I have right now, and that is okay. And that's what I want to give you the permission is I want you to be moving forward as a husband, as a father, as a leader, but realize that you can't move forward in 5 directions, right? I want you to expand your horizons, but sometimes you're moving, left, sometimes you're moving right, sometimes you're moving up, sometimes you move forward or backwards. You're expanding as a human being, but you can't expand in every direction at the same time. So for fitness right now, I'm running and I'm stretching. For finance right now, I'm tracking. That's all I'm doing. I've worked a little bit of overtime. I really haven't focused on making any more money. I don't have any current, plans for a side business or anything like that. I'm just making sure I know where my money's going, that my bills are paid, and that's okay. So food. What am I currently doing for food? Well, as part of 75 Hard, you have to come up with a diet plan, and I'm tracking my macros. I'm using an app called Macro Factor. It's great. And my commitment is to track everything I'm eating. And about 90% of the time, I'm trying to eat within my macros, meaning the right amount of calories, which would include fat, carbs, and proteins. Now, I miss my protein intake a lot because it's hard to get that much protein without going over on your calories. So I'm figuring that out. And that is in line with my fitness goals because if you're running, the thinner you are, the easier it is to run. There's a reason why there's no morbidly obese, track stars. That's, fitness and food kind of go hand in hand. So I'm focusing on that. Now, starting in 2 weeks, I go back to teaching the Fire Academy. And that's going to get much harder because I'm going to be gone. I'm not going to be home. I'm not going to be able to prepare my own meals. So the food side of that will go away. But then the money side, right? I'm making more money. And because I'm making more money, I am creating on the friends and family section, that networking section, I am building my resume. I am interacting with new firefighters that at some point in my life might lead to a relationship that takes me somewhere else that I can't even comprehend. But I'm working, right? I'm going in the right direction. So I've talked about what I'm doing with my fitness. I've talked about what I'm doing with my food. I've talked about what I'm doing with my friends. Right now we're having lots of fun. Like we went to an air show yesterday with my kids. It was blistering hot on the tarmac, but it was fun. We're doing things as a family. I've got an event coming up in September, which a bunch of guys are all hanging out. We're going camping. I'm working on that, and it's expanding my life. It's a good thing. Finance, I mentioned that, and then mindset. What am I currently doing with mindset? Well, another thing with 75 Hard is I am. You read 10 pages of a nonfiction book. I'm actually reading 2 books. One is I'm not going to tell you what it is because I'm hoping to have the author on this podcast, but it's a friend of mine who works for a very large college and a very important sports team. You might know who I'm talking about. And I'm going to be asking him to get on my show. Hopefully, if he hears this and he knows who he is, I'm going to be talking to you. And I hope to have him on the show. I've been reading his book. And then I've also been reading a book called, it's part of an assessment called the Get Clear Assessment. And the book is Finding the Job You Love or something along those lines. Because I'm trying to help my son guide and direct him towards, 1 year from now, he's going to be figuring out what he wants with his life. So I am, my mindset, my education is kind of starting to shift a little bit towards that, towards helping him. And if you listened to my podcast last week, Lindsay asked me, like, what have you not been talking about, or what do you hope to be talking about? And one of the things that I'm interested in, and if I could get some feedback, if you get on Instagram, Danny Dumas EYT, let me know if this would be interesting. I don't think this would be for you, but this might be for your son. I think in today's day and age, there's a group of young men who have a very hard time launching. But what do I mean by launching? Getting out into this world and, kind of crushing it. And I think I have the tools and maybe some resources and some knowledge to help them. If you think your son would benefit from talking to someone like me or actually talking to me, reach out to me. My email is danny@dannydumas.com, because as my son gets there, I know I want him to be successful, and I want your son to be successful. And that's something I could do to help. I would love to. So I'm starting to shift my mental focus a little bit towards that direction. Like, how do we help this next generation become good future husbands, future fathers, future leaders? And that's powerful to me. So how do you incorporate all this that I'm talking about? I think on a daily basis, you should think, what are my priorities today? If you have a super busy day and you know that maybe you're putting in 12 hours of work today because you got a project coming up, realize that your friends and your family aren't going to, that level of your life is not going to expand, and that's okay. But we should be working on at least one of those things. So today, because of this, I'm going to I'm going to eat well, because I can't control my fitness. I can't control my friends and family. This is going to help my finances. My boss is going to think this project's amazing, and I'm, going to get a raise. But think of, where am I working at? And it's okay to I don't want to say neglect, especially when I'm talking about family, but sometimes you have to neglect your family to do what's good for your family in the future. If for a brief period of time, you need to go all in on a project so that project is going to help you get a raise so that you can send your kids to private school, or your wife can stay home from work and raise your babies, then go for it. I'm giving you permission to not do everything. I'm giving you permission to focus on certain things for certain periods of time. Now, you have to be realistic, right? And you have to go back to your priorities. Your family should be a priority. So if at some point you say, hey, fitness is really important, I'm going to go run an Ironman. I've got several friends and a family member that's done an Ironman, and the commitment that takes is immense. And now it could be okay as long as you're managing the other parts. But if you're going all in on an Ironman and your family is falling apart and your wife is, basically a single mother, you really need to analyze. You really need to have some deep conversations with yourself to determine whether or not that's acceptable, because it might not be. And then maybe that goal is not worth it because everything else is falling apart. So I just want you to live an intentional life. I want you to expand as a husband, father, and a leader. I think these 5 categories could really motivate you and improve your life by thinking of, like, what am I working on right now? And, just continually working on all 5 of those aspects. And, I don't know. I think this is good. Maybe this will be a course that I put out. Maybe this will be a book. I haven't got there. I'm still, it's still, the wheels are turning in my head to where this will go. So I hope you like that. If you did like this episode, I'd ask you to share it with a friend. That would mean a lot to me, that I could expand my reach and help more men just like you become better husbands, fathers, and leaders. And as always, my name is Danny Dumas, and this is the Earn Your Title podcast. I'll see you later. Bye.